I was on a plane with my kids a while ago, and we hit a patch of turbulence. And it was enough turbulence that most people on the plane stopped talking, and they were clenching their seats hard enough to make their knuckles turn white. The silence and the tension was broken, though, when my kids raised their arms in the air like they were on a roller coaster and started laughing. So why was their response so different than most of the other people on the plane? This happens because our brain interprets things through the lens of our past experiences. And my boys' only past experience, having their throat drop into their stomachs, was when they were on a roller coaster. And it ended well, so their brain assumed, since they started having a similar feeling, that it was a similar situation, and they responded appropriately, with excitement. We're bombarded with so much information every day that our brain needs to create shortcuts or filters to help us pay attention to what we need to notice and what we need to ignore. It's a survival mechanism which ensures that we can get our needs met as efficiently as possible. We start creating survival maps almost as soon as we're born. A great experiment that shows this is the still face experiment. It's 3 minutes, it's on YouTube. It's worth a watch. These filters and shortcuts become the ways that we learn to get our needs met. And usually by the age of about 5 years old, we've developed a pretty good sense of who we are in the world and how to get our needs met. And this is most strongly influenced by the tribe that we're in. This means that if we grew up in a house where mom and dad took their bad days out on the kids and on each other, then we learn that it's okay to do that. We also learn that it's our job to take that when other people are using us as their emotional trash can. If we grew up in a home where mom was emotionally available and nurturing, but dad was distant or unpredictable, then we tend to gravitate towards women and feel safer with them and feel a bit uneasy and avoid men. And if we grew up in a home where we learned that children are meant to be seen and not heard, then we tend to learn that it's not safe to ask for help and to keep everything to ourselves, to stuff things. So really think of survival maps as the ways that we learn to get our needs met. It's how we adapt to our environment. The problem is that because we so desperately don't want to feel unsafe, then once we have a survival map, whether or not it's a healthy one, then we will persistently use that same map in all situations. We generalize because we never want to feel unsafe. Once we have a survival map in place, we tend to notice the things that are in line with it, and we tend to ignore or devalue the times that it didn't work. So the combination of our not wanting to feel uncertain or unsafe and us consciously and unconsciously paying attention and encoding more when our survival map has worked versus when it doesn't makes changing our survival maps really difficult. And it makes sense, right? If we created survival maps for survival, then of course we're not going to easily change them around. The bad news is that when we're unaware of our survival maps, we keep reenacting them. We're on autopilot. The good news is that there are 3 easy things that you can do to start the process of addressing your survival maps. One is you can think about significant events from your childhood or from your life and think about what are the lessons you learned about who you are in the world and what you can expect. It might be helpful to write these down. It might be things like if you remember mom and dad not really paying much attention to you except for when you got really good grades. Maybe you learned that you're only worthy of attention when you succeed. Take whatever thoughts or memories pop into your mind, jot them down on a piece of paper, and take a moment to think about what rules did you learn about who you are in the world and how the world works based on these experiences. Another thing that you can do is try doing the Facing the Past exercise that we have on the website under the resources page. Finally, once you've identified filters that maybe aren't serving you anymore, you can work to actively change your filter. And you do that by looking for evidence, and you have to look, because remember, our survival maps mean that we're going to notice the things that are in keeping with it. So for instance, if I'm a particularly negative person, then I could start by having a gratitude journal. Or if you're someone who's really down on yourself, then making an awesome book of all the things you're proud of. These things actually help us change our filters. They help us change how we look at the world, and that in turn changes how we respond to it, both mentally, physically, and physiologically. These exercises literally train our brain to look for and process information differently. Good luck, and check out our blog to find out more about survival maps and filters.